presented in a summary form as Nectar of Devotion by Śrīla Prabhupada. There are two very important verses in regard to what we're talking about here. I'll just read them. Anashaktasya vishayan yataham upayunjataha niyabandha Krishna sambandhe. That niyabandha Krishna sambandhe is in the purport of the verse we read today. So, anashaktasya vishayan yataham upayunjataha nirbandha Krishna sambandhe Yukta-Vairāgyam uchyate prapanchi kataya buddhya hari sambandhi vastunaha mumukshu bir parityago vairagyam falgu katyate. Translation: when one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. On the other hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna is not as complete in his renunciation. This, in terms of Rūpa Gosvāmī's study of the Shastra, in order to Dharma samstapana, to establish Dharma. This, first of all, refers to the first verse of the Ishopanishad, in that everything animate or inanimate within the world, everything concrete and everything abstract, everything within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. Controlled and owned by the Lord. Nothing is ours. In fact, our very selves are not our own. That might sound strange, but I've got to get my glasses. 1 second. I've only got a small print Bhagavad Gita here, so I have to get my glasses out. Where are they? Where did I put them? Excuse me. Here we are. Not even we belong to ourselves. We do not own anything, not even ourselves. This is very specifically explained by Krishna in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita in verses 34 and 35. Actually, 33, 34, and 35. In verse 33, Krishna says, O chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all, O son of Pritha, all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. Knowing this, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Then, having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. The illusion is the false ego, I and mine. For by this knowledge, you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they are mine. So everything belongs to Krishna, including us. That's wonderful knowledge. That's wonderful information. Because on the basis of that, we can begin to become completely disentangled from our material situation without falsely renouncing. Srila Bhakti-Vinod has a nice song where he explains My wife is not my wife. She's your maidservant. So this is a very nice approach to understand that everything we have in our so-called possession has been put, as they say in Hindi, mera kapas. That doesn't mean it's mine. It means mera kapas. It's near to me. So all of those things that are near to me, as listed in regard to what was near to Parikshit Maharaj, his palace, his kingdom, his wife, his children, his domestic animals, his fortune, his power, his military power, everything. It was all provided for him by the Lord to perform particular duties. So this is a very nice understanding for us to develop, those of us who are still in attached life. We are attached to family, we are attached to children, we are attached to home, we're attached in so many ways due to the tight knot, the hridaya granthi in the heart, whereby through false ego, matter and spirit have been tied together. But all of these things, kriha, chetra, sutapta, vitai, they lead. There's a very nice verse in the 5th canto from Lord Rishabdev, where he says in verse number 8, Pungsang striya mituni bhava metam tayo mito hridaya granti mahu ato griha chetra sutapta vitai janasya mohoyam aham mameti. The attraction, the fundamental attraction of the material world is between male and female. The attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence. On the basis of this misconception, what is the misconception? The misconception is on both sides. The woman, the jiva in the body of the woman is mistaking the body as the self, I am a woman, and the jiva in the body of the male is under the misconception that I'm a man. We're not men or women. We're all eternal living beings. However, on the basis of this misconception, which ties together the hearts of the male and the female, hridaya grantis, one becomes attracted to his body. Well, that was the other point in the purport. Parikshit Maharaj was able to give up the attraction first to his body, then all that accrued to it. One becomes attracted to his body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth. In this way, one increases life's illusions and thinks in terms of I and mine under the influence of false ego. But we just heard from Krishna, everything, Krishna says, everything is mine. Everything belongs to Krishna. So therefore, without giving up our present situation, we can gradually shift our consciousness, transform our consciousness by dissolving away the false ego conceptions of I and mine and understanding that everything that exists within my sphere of influence can be engaged in the service of the Lord according to time, place, and circumstance. Does anyone have any questions? This is the practice of Yukta-Vairāgya, the practice of dovetailing whatever there is into the service of the Lord. And for all of us who are in attached life, we can very quickly begin to dissolve away the idea that on the one hand, I have my material life, and on the other hand, I have my spiritual life. That distinction vanishes. It's all spiritual now. So Ganesh Shivaji has a question. We'll come back.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Can't ask the question unless you put your camera on.
Oh, sure. Thanks, Prabhu. Prabhu, you said we are souls. We should not. I mean, and we. We shouldn't. We are not the. we're not woman or man, basically. But does that mean we? This is a very basic question, but does it mean that we don't do the duties of a male and a female in the body of this?
No, it means we definitely do the duties, the prescribed duties of the male and the female. We do those duties, definitely. Definitely. Everything is based upon the performance of duty. Krishna is saying to Arjuna, you do your duty as a Kshatriya. You do your duty. But what do you do your duty for? Ultimately, it's for the pleasure of Krishna. Not. That's the difference between duty, performing activities out of duty, and performing activities for personal pleasure. This is great science.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions? Any other questions? I'll go on a little further then. We still have 10 minutes. There's a very nice lecture you can all listen to. It's from 1972 in September in New Vrindavan, a lecture by Srila Prabhupada amongst other lectures which are classified as the Bhagavat Dharma lectures. And it's this verse. Excuse me. Dhamma swanushtita pungsam vishvakshena katasuyaha nodpariyad yadiratim shrama eva hi kevalam. So this is from the first canto, second chapter, verse number 8. I'll just read the translation. The occupational activities, the duties, Ganesh, that a person, a man, it says here, but that's just philosophical categorization. It means any person. The occupational activities a person performs according to one's own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. The whole purpose of pursuing activities according to our duties within our particular designated ashram or vana is to satisfy Krishna. Actually, this second chapter of the first canto is amazing in that regard because it goes on. The verses go on to where we get to the point where Sutta Goswami explains that, excuse me, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation according to caste divisions and orders of life, guna, karma, vibhagasa, not according to your birth, but according to your predisposition within the modes of material nature.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
I'm finished.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
According to the caste divisions and orders of life is to please the personality of Godhead. Who was saying thank you? Who was that? No, you, Ganesh? Stay tuned. Then the next verse, very important. It's a double therefore here. First of all, conclusively after, you can read this yourself. Verse 13 of chapter 2 of the first canto says what I just read. O best among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation according to caste divisions and orders of life is to please the personality of Godhead. Then text 14. Tasmadekena manasa bhagavan sattvatam pati shotavya kititavyascha jayas pujas chanityada. Now, the therefore that follows from the previous therefore is, therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. So, wrapped up within the performance of your varnashram duties, this has to be the foundation of your life, of your day, daily. And then your labors become very effective because, as going back to verse number 8, these connections between hearing and chanting about the Lord and practicing the process of renunciation outlined by Rūpa Gosvāmī, based upon the understanding that Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita that everything belongs to him anyway, then what happens is that one, as this verse is saying, will not happen unless you are doing these things. It will provoke an attraction to the message of the personality of Godhead. One's occupational activities are useless labor if they do not provoke this. So the shift is there right in the beginning of what we said. Shift our consciousness from false ego to real ego. We are not the servants of our senses. We are the servants of Krishna. So Prabhupada explains in the lecture on that verse, number 8, that this body will be finished. Today, tomorrow, whenever, this body is finished. But the subtle body, the chitta, the mind, the intelligence, the false ego, and the consciousness of the soul is carried by that subtle body to the next situation. This practice of Bhakti-yoga, as outlined specifically by Śrīla Prabhupada, enables us to educate the false ego. Educate it, as that purport today says. Where there's darkness, there's no light. Where there's light, there's no darkness. False ego is total darkness. So bringing the light of transcendental knowledge into the chitta, into the subtle body, brings us to the point where we are able, at the end of this gross material body, which is going to be shed anyway, we can also shed the subtle body. And as a result of that, become totally liberated from this hridaya grantis, this tight knot which ties us through the heart to the material world. This is our practice. And it's all based around the chanting of the Maha Mantra. If you can do nothing else, if you can't even read, if you can't do anything, chant Hare Krishna. Chant Hare Krishna to the best of your ability, as often as possible. And as we were talking about yesterday, you can take your medicine in various doses. Whatever dosage you're able to tolerate to start with, you take that. But then the idea is to gradually increment the dosage so that the sound vibration of the holy name will penetrate deeper and deeper into the darkness that surrounds us through the coverings of false ego. We have 2 minutes left, and then we all have to get on with our busy days. Well, you do. I'm a lazy fellow. I just sit around all day, take prasadam and go for a walk. Any questions?
Harekrishna Prabhu.
Janmatagni.
Harekrishna
Lovely
Prabhu.
to see you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Great, always great to see you as well. Prabhu, I've got a question. So we discuss about false ego a lot. So sometimes the scripture describes false ego as forgetfulness of our real ego, just like how darkness is absence of light. So it's just absence of real ego is false ego. But then we also hear about false ego as one of the material elements, subtle elements, even the universal layers has an element, a thick layer of false ego that one has to breach to transcend. So is it, Prabhu, a real thing? Is it a real thing, or is it just like Maya, basically forgetfulness of real ego?
It causes forgetfulness. It's a real thing. Bhumir apo nalo vayu kangmano buddhareva cha ahankara iti yang me bina prakriti astara. Read your Gita, please, everybody. More reading of Gita is required. In the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, there are 4 verses where Krishna, in a nutshell, explains this. Bhumirapo nalo vayu kangmano buddhareva cha ahankara iti yang me bina prakriti astara aparayam itastvanyam prakritim vidi me param jiva bhutam mahabaho yayadam daryate jagat itadyonini bhutani savanityupadaraya ahankrishnasya jagata prabhava pralayas tata mata parataram nanyat kinshidasti dhananjaya Mai savamidang protam sutre maniganari va. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. All these together constitute, altogether, these 8 constitute my separated material energies. Besides these, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mine, which comprises the living entities, that's us, who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior energy. And how do we become the exploiters? By entering the material energy, and we enter the material energy and become covered by it from the most subtle element to the most gross. The most subtle is false ego, then intelligence, then mind. Then we get into the gross. Ether, air, fire, water, and earth. We're covered. All created beings have their source in these 2 natures. Of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution. Then this zinger, beautiful verse. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth. There is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. So false ego is a very real thing. It is the most malleable, the most subtle, the most integral. You cannot disintegrate the false ego. Just like you can take a piece of gold and tap it out so it becomes very, very thin, so thin that you have to have a micro, what do they call it, electronic microscope to be able to work on it and even see it. But that's nothing to the integrity of the false ego. It is so subtle, and it morphs according to our consciousness. It morphs into the subtle form of a dog, the subtle form of a tree, the subtle form of a snake, whatever that may be that state of consciousness is in. at the time of death, that false ego, which encompasses the mind, the intelligence, and us, and our consciousness, carries us to the next growth situation. That is our karma. We become completely uncovered. We are able to give up the material false ego, the material intelligence, the material mind, and the material consciousness by entering into the transcendental sound vibration, by becoming submissive to transcendental sound vibration. Shrinvatam swakata Kṛṣṇa punya shravana kirtana hridanta sto yabhadrani vidunoti suritsata. That's the 17th verse of the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto. It's a real thing, Jamadagni, and it can be dealt with. But this is the process. Bhakti-yoga is the process that takes us beyond these things. Okay?
Yes, Prabhuji, that was very comprehensive. Thank you.
Swapnil Chitale. Is that the correct pronunciation? Unmute, Prabhu. You've got your hand up for a question. Unmute, please.
Yes, I have unmuted. Thank you, Prabhuji. That's the right pronunciation. And this is my first class. Thanks to Vinod Prabhu. He introduced me to this Zoom class.
Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I have one question. So right now I mentioned that I have one question, and I mentioned as I, and we use that basically in everyday life, whether it is on, I'm a teacher, so I'd say I am going to conduct a class on age and disability, or I am going to do this, or I am going to do that. But then that I, which we are talking, is the false ego. So how do we, like, even when we say I, but we know that we are all Krishna, we are owned by Krishna. But then how do we function in real life where we know that we are not our own selves? So how is that a real feeling people have it inside them, that when they are advanced, that they don't feel like themselves?
We are ourselves. We are always ourselves, but we are now covered by false ego, and we have projected ourselves into this material world. We have intentions and we have desires. Those intentions and those desires are observed by Supersoul, who sits within our hearts, and he arranges the external circumstances so that we are able to do and attempt to accomplish what we intend or desire to do. But we are not able to do it without the assistance, the unseen, unobserved assistance of Krishna. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. It does. And can I ask a short corollary question to it? That when I involve myself in activities which are not good, and I'm done that. So what happens? Where is the presence of the super soul? Is the super soul just quietly watching me doing those activities, or it has a say but I negate it?
Do you have Bhagavad Gita as it is yet?
Yes, I do.
I'll refer you to chapter 5, verse 15, and I'll refer everybody to this chapter. And I'll read it to you now, and you can read it for yourself later. And if you have to go now, you can go, but I'm going to read this. This will answer your question very, very succinctly and lucidly. It's a part of 15 is a part of a sequence of verses in this 5th chapter, which begins with verse number 11. So I'll read the verses into it, and then I'll read the purport. The verses go, the yogis, abandoning attachment, act with mind, intelligence, and body, mind, and intelligence, and even with the senses, only for the purpose of purification. The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the results of all activities to me. Whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled. When the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all action, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done. The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. This is verse 15. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. The Sanskrit vibhu used in this verse, the Sanskrit word vibhu, means the Supreme Lord, who is full of unlimited knowledge, riches, strength, fame, beauty, and renunciation. He is always satisfied in himself, undisturbed by sinful or pious activities. He does not create a particular situation for any living entity. But the living entity, bewildered by ignorance, desires to be put into certain conditions of life, and thereby his chain of action and reaction begins. A living entity is, by superior nature, full of knowledge. Nevertheless, he is prone to be influenced by ignorance due to his limited power. The Lord is omnipotent, but the living entity is not. The Lord is vibhu, or omniscient, but the living entity is anu, or atomic. Because he is a living soul, he has the capacity to desire by his free will. Such desire is fulfilled only by the omnipotent Lord. And so, when the living entity is bewildered in his desires, the Lord allows him to fulfill those desires. But the Lord is never responsible for the actions and reactions of the particular situation which may be desired. Being in a bewildered condition, therefore, the embodied soul identifies himself with the circumstantial material body and becomes subjected to the temporary misery and happiness of life. The Lord is the constant companion of the living entity as Paramatma, or the Supersoul, and therefore he can understand the desires of the individual soul as one can smell the flavor of a flower by being near it. Desire is a subtle form of conditioning for the living entity. The Lord fulfills his desire as he deserves. Man proposes and God disposes. The individual is not therefore omnipotent in fulfilling his desires. The Lord, however, can fulfill all desires, and the Lord, being neutral to everyone, does not interfere with the desires of the minute, independent living entities. However, when one desires Kṛṣṇa, the Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way that one can attain to him and be eternally happy. Yes?
Yes.
Therefore, the embodied soul, by his immemorial desire to avoid Kṛṣṇa consciousness, devotional service causes his own bewilderment. Consequently, although he is constitutionally eternal, blissful, and cognizant, due to the littleness of his existence, he becomes covered and forgets his constitutional position of service to the Lord, and is thus entrapped by nescience. And under the spell of ignorance, the living entity claims the Lord is responsible for his conditional life, whereas we are all completely responsible for ourselves by this process. This verse is paramount for our understanding, and it leads to two very important verses, which I'll just read the verses and we'll end that sequence. It's actually verses 11 to verse 17. One second. I'll just have to reopen the book. Verse 16 says, now remember that the last part of verse 15 is, embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. Then, when, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. So then, when one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, that is, Kṛṣṇa, then one becomes fully cleansed of all misgivings, all doubts, through complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. The path of liberation, ultimate liberation, being the path of Bhakti-yoga. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. They were very intelligent questions. Very intelligent questions. Thank you very much. I think everybody benefited from hearing the answers to that question, those questions. And also Janmadagni's question. These were very intelligent. Thank you so much. All right. So we've now gone 16 minutes over time. Like I said, I'll talk all day, but you've all got things to do. So if you need to leave now, please leave. Otherwise, are there any more questions? You have a question here again, Ajay. Let's have a look at Ajay. Where are you? Ajay Sharma? Could you please answer my question? What is that question? There's no question here today. There's a question from yesterday. Are the relationships we form in this world a result of our own choices, or are they determined by Krishna's will? Is that your question? Ajay? Yes. Well, no, everything, well, the relationships we form in this world yes, definitely they are all a result of the choices we make. And the situation we are in this lifetime is as a result of choices we've made in the past. We make the choices. Yes, definitely. And whatever you desire, according to your degree of qualification within the ledger of your karma, then you'll get it. Hare Krishna. All right. Hare Krishna. People are leaving. I think we should stop now. Everybody, let's be responsible and get on with this day. Thank you all so much for attending. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Rubhyascha kripa sindho bhayevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare
I'll end the class now, Prabhu.
Thank you.